Okay, I'm Ellen Ryan, and I'm in Prospect, Nova Scotia, and I've lived here the best part of my life, 74 years. My first memories, of course, I was born in the second year of the Second World War, right? 1940. So all my first memories are about the war. And my first nightmares. Always people landing under the government wharf, attacking the village, all that. And of course they were blowing up the convoys that were going out of Halifax. And the whole entire shore was covered in crude oil. You couldn't walk on the shore at all because of the crude oil. Everything was covered with it. And we thought it was great fun to go and pick up the rations that would float ashore. I had no idea that people were actually being killed. I don't know, didn't think about that at all. But we'd find plum jam and egg powder and great big cans and all sorts of things we thought were wonderful. And they would send trucks to gather it all up. And they really expected people who had everything rationed to turn it in. And I suppose some people did, but I know we ate a lot of it. Yeah. And so that was sort of the first part of it. And then going to school, and went to school in the top 2 rooms of the hall, the community hall. And that's owned by the Catholic Church. And the Sisters of Charity taught there. And there were 2 classrooms, one from grade kindergarten to grade 5, and then grade 6 up were in the other classroom. And I went to school there for 11 years. Well, it was very interesting. It was certainly different than the way children are taught, I think, today. It was a very, very limited curriculum because, of course, when you have 40 children and they're all in different grades, it's a challenge to teach them. There were 2 sisters teaching there at that time. And, but it was, I've always loved school. I'm sure if you don't like school, it wouldn't have been a good experience at all. But I've always loved school. And the sisters were wonderful in a way. They were very, very controlling. And however, they taught us to put on plays. They allowed you to paint if you felt artistic. I remember being allowed to paint things on the windows at Christmas, and so it was quite a different experience. And these women, we were very fortunate to have them to teach us, because many of these rural schools were staffed by women who had graduated from Teachers College, in Truro. But these women, many of whom were from the United States, had degrees, university degrees. The sister that I remember best, Sister Beatrix, had a master's in mathematics. And I think we were very fortunate to have them to teach in our school. For all the downside, I mean, there are always things you don't like, but mostly it was good. My dad was a fisherman, inshore fisherman, probably one of the last self-sufficient people in the village. Grew his own potatoes, cut his own hay, kept animals, fished for a living. But about the fishermen, they got up early, They probably started their day about 4 o'clock and worked really, really hard. Inshore fishing looks like a job where, oh, you'll only work all summer and then, you'll have the winter off, but that's not correct. They fished lobster in the winter, and when he wasn't fishing, my dad was mending nets, he was knitting headings for lobster pots, because they built them all out of wood, and really busy fixing their boats. They were wooden boats, which take a lot of work, give you hives just to think about it. And so, yeah, really busy life. But I don't know, we had no money to speak of, but I never felt deprived. I'm sure I didn't know I was poor until I went to Halifax and saw people who had a lot more. Yeah, probably. Yeah. What I remember is that if there were lots of fish, the price was terrible. And if there was a good price, that was because there weren't many fish. And one of the reasons I think that fishing has always had a really difficult time is because every fisherman was an entrepreneur. This whole idea now of having a union of fishermen was unheard of. Everybody worked for himself. So, very difficult to change how things are operating when everyone's working for themselves. All of my brothers and all of the kids their age left here to go and earn a living somewhere else because the fishing was just about finished. Okay, the inshore fishing's been on the way downhill for a long time. And because I remember my brother Alf, who was 8 years older than me, loved the ocean, wanted very much to be a fisherman, but my dad said to him, I can't take you in my boat. There just isn't enough work, there isn't enough money coming in. So my brother left and joined the Navy. So that was different, that changed. And by the time I was about 12, it was a very small population. But there were still some shops, a post office, a school, a church. All of those things were still here. Those are all gone now. I really think Prospect and these little villages are really a microcosm of what's going on throughout the maritime provinces. That a way of life has passed, and we're in a time of change, right? And Prospect, for instance, is a bedroom community, and it's mostly all elderly people. It's very sad not to have any children, but our children have left. Here's a story that I think is kind of funny about it. The Department of Transport has always maintained the lights on the harbor and on the wharf, on the community wharf. Well, it was the government wharf. And now, of course, the federal government divested themselves of those wharves and lighthouses and all that sort of thing. And so the community took over the wharf, and we now have to take care of it, raise money, maintain it. And there's a light on it for navigational purposes. So a gentleman from the Department of Transport called me and said, now, Mrs. Ryan, you understand, he said, that we've just changed the light on the wharf, and from now on it's a solar light. Oh, I said, that's wonderful. But he said, I really want you to understand, I don't want you to be upset about it, but this is the last time that we will do anything like this. From now on, we will not be maintaining the light. And he was, he was being so sweet about the whole thing. And after a while, it struck me really funny. I said, this is a village that has lost everything that made it a community. I can't get upset about a light. It just seemed like, yeah, so what? One more thing, eh? But that's the way things are changing on the coast. There isn't any point in fighting and arguing about it. It's the way it is. It's been a long, long-term plan to close down the inshore fishery, get rid of all that infrastructure, save the government a lot of money.